Hey guys, Mike for SimRacing604, and this is my review of the Asetek SimSports Forte pedal set. And Asetek markets these as a mid-range pedal set, and I know what you're thinking. Great, another mid-range pedal set that promises high-end performance at an affordable price. But there's actually three things that make the Forte pedal set special, and I'm going to talk about it today. So as promised, I'm going to share what makes these Asetek Forte pedals special. And there's three things that I've found so far without testing these. Number one is the load cell that's contained in the brake pedal here is rated to 180 kilograms of force. Now that is close to double what I'm used to. I own a lot of pedal sets and they're usually in the 80 to 100 kilogram range. This, as I say, is close to double that. So it's going to be able to stand up to those stronger forces. So a stronger load cell is number one of what makes these sort of not unique, but special within the mid-range pedals market. And the second thing is the toolless adjustment. So as you can see, there's thumb screws up front, and that allows you to adjust the angle of the pedal relative to the pedal plate. Also, there's adjustments behind both the accelerator and the brake pedal, and those can be adjusted just by hand. So it's toolless adjustment. Plus, of course, there's software tuning, and I'm going to get into that later. But the toolless adjustment is another thing that I find very cool and perhaps special in this market. And the third thing is the design. This is a very handsome looking set of pedals. So something we sort of take for granted is the looks of a lot of sim racing components. I've been openly critical of the CSLDD looks or the Moza Racing R9. Those are wheelbases, of course, but they're just sort of blocks. And same goes for pedals. There's a lot of very interesting players in the pedal market now, especially the sort of entry-level load cell market. And what you find is they're making a fantastic product, but it looks very functional. It doesn't have style, but these Asetek Forte pedals, they have style. And if you've seen the Invicta pedals, which is the higher level of the Asetek line of products, they look similar, and they also contain that extra level of design. So really nice looks, I would say, is something that makes this special, because honestly, when is the last time you looked at a set of sim racing pedals and said to yourself, well, those look great? Right? It's usually functional more than anything, but I think these Aseteks look great, and I'm sure opinions will vary on that, but they definitely tried and went for an aesthetic here, not just function. So next up, I'm going to go into the tuning software for these Asetek pedals, and then of course I will take them in sim and drive with them, and I'll share my opinions at the end of the video, the good, the neutral, and the bad, and give you a final verdict and compare them to my Husingveld Sprint pedals. Alright, so now that I have these pedals connected to my PC via the USB cables, I am in the RaceHub software, which is free to download and easy to install. And from this main screen, as you can see, I have pedals option here. I click it, and then I am brought to this screen. So as you can see across the top, we have three major headers, I guess you could say: calibration, pedal maps, and LED. And there's actually another one here, this information screen. And when I booted up RaceHub this time, it told me there's a firmware update available. So I just click this I, and firmware update is available. Let's go ahead and do that. And just like that, we are up to date. So it should reboot momentarily, I think. Or has it done it already? There we go. All right. So now I'm back here, and I should have the latest version installed. Calibration menu here, so I'm pushing my foot on the throttle. As you can see, I'm not sure if you can hear that click, but when I push it to the extent, it goes to 100%. If I had my, depending on where I have my screw set to allow the pedal travel or to limit the pedal travel, let's say this was 100%, I could just simply, when I click calibrate, I could make that 100%. Let's try that. So calibrate, and then if this was my limit, I could just click complete, and then I could go to there, and it's 100%. But that is not actually mine. I can go quite a bit further. So I click calibrate, go to 100%, calibrate, and there you go. And you see this 4% and 2% here, that's a dead zone. So in case I'm resting my foot on the accelerator, which I am right now, that will not become a factor. Because let's say there's that much pressure when I rest my foot on the accelerator pedal, you can just bump your dead zone at the bottom, up to 4% there, and as you can see, it's registering 0. Even though, hopefully you can see that, I am resting my foot on it. But I like to keep mine at about 2%. That's generally where my lazy foot ends up. And I like to set a little bit of dead zone at the top of the throttle as well. Reason being is if for whatever reason, if that screw kind of backs itself out and limits my pedal travel, I don't want to be hitting only 98 or 99% of the throttle available in my sim car. So I like to set a little top end dead zone, in my case 4%. That might be a bit excessive, but I just like to leave a little bit on there. And then brake, we're going to do the same thing. So go to calibrate, and because this is a big heavy load cell, I can only push it about that far. So I'm going to click complete, and then when I slam on the brakes, it does peg 100%. And as you can see, it's coming back to rest. And there you go. So it's back to 0. But normally when I drive, my foot is somewhere like this, kind of resting on it. So I can probably bump this down. There we go. I got it at 6% now. So even though I'm resting my foot on that pedal, it's just barely registering. So I could even maybe give it 1 more % there. And then I can rest my foot safely on that pedal and not worry about it accidentally applying brakes. And no need to set a brake dead zone at the top, in my opinion. So that's how we calibrate. Easy enough. Go to pedal maps, and if you want to set a curve, you can. As you can see, I've got mine completely linear here, but if you want to make more or less brake action worth more, you can certainly set a curve here, and you can customize those as well to your liking. So there's a lot of customization there for those who like to tinker. I leave mine linear, or if you're going to leave it linear, you could just disable that. And then finally, LED. I'm sure you guys have figured it out. I don't have a camera on my pedals right now, but there's a brightness factor here. Turn it all the way down, turn it all the way up. And then, of course, you can set your color from anywhere on here. I don't know if it changes that. Let's see. Oh, it does. Look at that. So you can see what my pedals are doing in real time. That is cool. I didn't know that. All right. And so that's pretty much the RaceHub software in a nutshell. So very easy to use, and yeah, it gets you up and running really quick. And you can see these two marked in the pit because Asetek, I'm sure, has more exciting products coming. I think I've seen a wheelbase. I think they announced a wheelbase, so that should be coming fairly soon. But anyway, that'll be supported by RaceHub here, obviously. And then if you need to buy more stuff or you need support, there are options for that via RaceHub as well. Alright, so impressions of driving with the Asetek Forte pedals, and there are 2 things you notice right away with these pedals. The first thing is that the brake pedal is very stiff. Even with the softest elastomer spacer that's included with the pedals, there's still only a tiny amount of travel. And the second thing that you notice about these Forte pedals is that they feel very solid. So even though there is a very stiff brake pedal, it doesn't feel like the pedals themselves are flexing at all. They remain very robust even under the heaviest stress of that brake. It gives the impression that the pedals are far closer to automotive grade than gaming grade, and you also get the feeling that no matter how hard you press that brake, you will be fine and the brakes will be fine. That stiff brake pedal took me about an hour to get used to, I would say. I was hot lapping with it, and all I could notice was how little travel there is compared to my Heusinkveld brake pedal. But then I started racing and focusing more on what was happening around me on track rather than the differences in the brake feel. And as it turns out, after getting used to the pedals, I really like them. A lot, in fact. The accelerator weight was perfect with the default spring, and even though I'm still getting used to the limited brake travel, I did really start enjoying the feel and even experimenting with the threshold of the brake in the car in ACC and finding the limit almost exclusively with pressure rather than travel. I wouldn't say these hold a distinct advantage over my Heusinkveld Sprints, but they're certainly not worse. I really enjoyed driving with the Fortes, and for the time being at least, they will replace my Sprints as my pedal of choice. I'll see long term whether that stiff brake pedal starts to feel more natural to me. If it doesn't, I can always go back to my Heusinkvelds and enjoy the longer brake travel. But if it does, I'm happy to stick with these impressive Forte pedals, and that would actually move them to the top spot of the best pedals I own. So here's a quick summary of what's included with the pedals, and then we'll get into my final thoughts. Alright guys, so a quick summary of the Asetek SimSports Forte pedals. This is a 2-pedal set from the Forte series. Forte is the mid-range line from Asetek. Asetek also offers the Invictus series, which is their higher end product set. And optionally, if you wish to turn the 2-pedal set into a 3-pedal set, you can buy the clutch from the Invictus series and mate the two together. The Forte pedals you see here use all aluminum construction, which keeps it strong and light. They carry an MSRP of $500 or €500, but be sure to check their website for shipping and taxes specific to your region. The brake uses a load cell rated at 180 kilograms, and the accelerator uses a Hall sensor to measure travel distance. The pedals use a one-piece design, meaning it's not modular. You cannot take the pedals apart, you cannot space them out further, and the pedal faces are designed for either socks or shoes, and they can be removed and adjusted laterally using the 2 bolts at the center. The pedals also feature an LED bar which has customizable colors. These are designed for PC only and connect to your PC via either a USB-A or a USB-C connection. These USB cables are included along with bolts and Allen keys to get the pedals mounted to your pedal deck on your rig. And there is also alternate brake elastomers which allow you to customize the resistance and travel of the brake pedal, along with an alternate accelerator spring which allows you to change the resistance on the accelerator. Alright guys, so final thoughts on the Asetek SimSports Forte pedals, and I'm gonna do good, neutral, and bad, things I like, things I'm okay with, and things I don't like about these Forte pedals. And we'll start off with the good. And first thing, obviously the most important thing, I really like how they drive. Yes, the brake pedal is very stiff, and I'll talk about that more in a second, but overall they drive really, really well. I'm very happy with it. It's very close with my Heusinkveld Sprint pedals, and I don't say that lightly. I think the Sprints are a fantastic pedal, but these Asetek SimSports Forte pedals come very, very close. I think it's going to come down to your preference, whether you like a stiff brake or a little bit more travel in your brake, but overall, as I say, definitely in the good category is how these drive, and that's a very important thing, obviously. And next in the good is the looks, and I think these look fantastic. And of course, looks are subjective, so a lot of you will disagree with me. Some of you, I'm sure, will agree with me. The RGB light, I mean, you could say that's gimmicky, I'll admit, but overall I think the design is very clean, and as I said earlier in the video, I think it's so rare for a set of pedals to be really eye-catching, and I think Asetek has done a great job with that. And then also in the pro category or good category is the overall build quality. This is a very, very sturdy set of pedals. Of course, with those high brake forces, you're going to require a lot of build quality, and Asetek has really delivered on these. They feel solid, 180 kilogram load cell and that Hall sensor under the accelerator. I mean, it seems like all the pieces are in place for this to be great. I think it really reflects, I think the build quality really reflects what Asetek was going for with these pedals, and I think the quality is excellent. Also in the good category for me is the included accessories. This is something I'm big on. This is something I encourage all sim manufacturers to go with. Asetek has included 2 USB cables, depending on how you're connecting to your PC. A USB and a USB-A connection are both included. They've also included Allen keys to tighten the bolts. The only thing they're required for is to put these pedals onto a wheel deck or a pedal deck or a pedal plate. But the tools are included just in case, as are the bolts. And then there's also alternate elastomers included, depending on how stiff you want that brake to be. There's also a spring included to swap that out, swap out the spring on the accelerator to get that feel to your liking. So very impressive there. And lastly is toolless adjustments. I really like this. I think that the biggest difference I've found so far is that the Heusinkveld Sprints that I own versus these Asetek Forte pedals is it seems like Asetek was going for sort of a complete design. This is not for the tinkerer, whereas the Heusinkveld Sprints, in my opinion, is for sort of the technician, the tinkerer, the person who doesn't mind getting tools out to make small adjustments, whereas these Asetek pedals, they seem more inclined to ship complete and ready for use. And I think that's reflected well in the toolless adjustments. I think that's a very cool thing Asetek has done. You can just use your thumb and index finger to adjust the pedal angle. You can also adjust the play and the brake, things like that, all without tools. So I think that's very cool. And moving now into the neutral category, things I'm okay with. First off, the price. I think $500 is going to scare off a lot of people. $500 for a 2-pedal set is definitely on the more expensive side of things. I think you get a lot for that price. I think the build quality, the styling, as I mentioned, and how well these things drive probably justifies that price, but I'm also not completely in the dark that $500 for a 2-pedal set is a lot. So I'm going to put that in the neutral category. This is not something that most people will be able to just rush out and buy, but I think if you do like the looks of these, you like how, if you've watched other reviews or this review, and you like how people are speaking about how these pedals drive, and you decide they're for you, I think it justifies the price. But again, I don't want to be flippant with this and say that everybody should just rush out and buy 2, because $500 is a lot for a 2-pedal set, but it lands in my neutral category. And also in the neutral category is, of course, the brake pedal being that stiff. I'm using the lightest elastomer. It's technically rated at medium, and I'm using the softest elastomer that's included with the kit, and it's still very stiff. You guys probably saw that in the video. There's not much travel at all, maybe an inch or so, 25 millimeters. So it's comparatively stiff. Like, I'm used to quite a bit more travel. So that's going to be for some people. It's not going to be for other people. So that's just something to be aware of. Because it's a personal preference thing, I'm going to land that in the neutral category. Also in the neutral category, because of that super stiff brake pedal, you're going to require a strong rig. This is not something that can go on just a cheap rig, like the, I don't know, let's say FGT Lite from Next Level Racing or something like that, because it's going to flex like crazy. This is a very strong brake pedal, and it's going to go through a lot of forces. Thankfully, my FGT Elite, which is an aluminum extrusion set, held up really, really well. But again, don't go into this thinking you can just slap it on any rig. You'll probably need a very strong rig to use these pedals properly. And also in the neutral category is the thumb screws that I like so much. The orange color, how many rigs is that going to match? I don't know. It might be part of a branding thing. I know Asetek is looking at releasing a wheelbase at some point in the future, and it may be sort of a general color scheme of the Forte line or Invicta line or just Asetek in general. But I would like to see them ship with available different thumb screws. Maybe it could come from the factory customized. Maybe you could get blue, maybe you could get red, maybe you could stick with the default orange, maybe all black is an option, but it's not going to match some rigs, and that might clash with the RGB. So in a product that prioritizes styling as much as Asetek has, thumb screw color options would be nice. And finally, moving into the bad category, things I don't like. And the first one, and again, this goes back to Asetek prioritizing style with the Forte pedals, that cable. There's a little cable that comes off the back of the brake shaft that houses the elastomer. And it's a real eyesore. I don't know why that needs to be there. It could definitely come in the back of that little housing and be tucked out of sight effectively, or maybe it could be run internally. I don't know why that needs to be there. Compared to the rest of the product, it's a real eyesore. It's a shame it's there. I don't know why they went with that specific design. Very strange. Not sure why they did it. Wish it didn't have to happen. So maybe in the future, maybe in a V2, they could tuck that cable away. And the second bad thing is the lack of a Forte clutch. So if you want the third pedal with your Forte pedals, you have to buy the Invicta. They've divided their product line currently into 2 tiers, the Invicta tier, which is the higher, and the Forte tier, which is the lower. And this is the lower tier of pedals. But in order to make it a 3-pedal set, you have to buy the clutch from the higher tier. So they do offer a clutch which can mate, and you sort of bring the 2 plates together, then you have a 3-pedal set. Great, but it is from the Invicta line, and it's comparatively expensive. I would like to see them have a more simple clutch for the Forte line, and try and drive that cost down a little bit. All right, so parting thoughts on the Asetek SimSports Forte pedals. I love them. I really do. I love the way they drive. I love the way they look. Excellent quality. Beautiful addition to my rig. I keep looking at pictures of these things, and yeah, very striking. Very great looking set of pedals, and something that's rare. I don't see much style in a lot of new sim racing products, but Asetek has really done that. So as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if this is going to become my permanent set of pedals or not. It's right there with the Heusinkveld Sprints. I like the feel of the brake travel more right now from the Heusinkvelds. Will I get used to the stiffness of the Asetek Forte? I hope so, because I really want to keep these on there, but it is so stiff, and hopefully Asetek in the future starts selling the softer elastomers to allow a little bit more travel, because I would love that. But other than that, I don't really have much bad to say. I think they're gorgeous, I think they drive well, and I think they're built well, and those are three important things. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.